The wind howled through the desolate plains as Aiden Storm stood before the crumbling ruins of his childhood home. Ashes scattered across the ground, remnants of the life he once knew. His hands clenched into fists, the weight of his family's demise pressing down on him like an unbearable burden. It had been 3 years since the fire, 3 years since the shadows had taken everything from him. He gazed at the horizon, where the towering silhouette of the Ironclaw dungeon loomed ominously. This was where it all began, a low-ranked dungeon, the first of many that would lead him to the truth. The monsters within were nothing compared to the beast of vengeance that now fueled his every step. "I swear on your graves, I will find those responsible," Aiden whispered to the ashes, his voice hoarse from years of silence. With a deep breath, he turned away from the ruins and began his journey towards the dungeon. The path was long and treacherous, but it was nothing compared to the path of revenge he had chosen. Aiden's powers had always been a source of pride for his family, lightning coursed through his veins, a gift from his ancestors. But today, that power was a weapon, a tool to carve his way through the world's most dangerous dungeons. As he approached the entrance of the Ironclaw dungeon, the ground beneath his feet trembled. The first challenge awaited. The darkness inside the Ironclaw dungeon was suffocating. Aiden's footsteps echoed off the stone walls as he descended deeper into the labyrinth. He could feel the presence of the monsters lurking in the shadows, their growls vibrating through the air. Lightning crackled at his fingertips, illuminating the narrow path ahead. A sudden roar erupted from the depths, followed by the sound of claws scraping against stone. Aiden paused, his senses on high alert. The first of many beasts had made its presence known. From the shadows, a massive creature lunged at him, a stoneclaw beast, its body covered in thick, jagged armor. Aiden reacted instinctively, summoning a bolt of lightning and hurling it toward the monster. The beast roared in pain, but it didn't fall. It charged again, its claws aimed at Aiden's chest. Ducking under the attack, Aiden struck with precision, sending a surge of electricity through the beast's body. The creature convulsed and collapsed, the light fading from its eyes. Breathing heavily, Aiden stood over the defeated monster. It wasn't the strongest foe he'd face, but it was a start. The dungeon was filled with many more challenges, and each victory would bring him closer to the answers he sought. As he moved deeper into the dungeon, the walls began to shift. Strange symbols glowed in the darkness, and Aiden felt a strange pull towards them. These markings were familiar, remnants of a forgotten language his father once spoke of. They hinted at secrets long buried within these dungeons, secrets that might hold the key to his family's destruction. He reached out, tracing the symbols with his fingers. Suddenly, a hidden door creaked open, revealing a passageway that led further into the unknown. Aiden hesitated only for a moment before stepping inside. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready for it. The passageway seemed to stretch endlessly, the air growing colder with each step Aiden took. The glow of the strange symbols illuminated his path, guiding him deeper into the heart of the dungeon. His mind raced with questions. Why had these symbols appeared here? Who had created them, and what connection did they have to his family's demise? As he ventured further, the symbols became more elaborate, forming intricate patterns across the walls. Aiden could feel the energy pulsing from them, a force ancient and powerful. He reached the end of the passage, where a large chamber opened before him. In the center of the room stood a massive stone altar, and upon it lay an ancient tome. Cautiously, Aiden approached the altar, his eyes locked on the book. The cover was etched with the same symbols that lined the walls, and as he touched it, a jolt of energy surged through him. He opened the tome, the pages brittle with age, and began to read. The text spoke of a group known as the Order of the Veil, a secretive organization that wielded dark powers. They had once been the protectors of the realm, guarding against the forces of chaos that sought to tear the world apart. But something had changed. The Order had turned on its own, corrupted by the very power they had sworn to control. Aiden's heart pounded as he read further. The name of the leader of the Order was familiar. Aiden Storm, his ancestor. The realization hit him like a lightning strike. His family had been part of this order, once revered, but something had gone terribly wrong. Could this be the reason for his family's destruction? Had the sins of the past come back to haunt them? Before he could process the implications, a low growl echoed through the chamber. Aiden snapped the book shut and whirled around, lightning sparking at his fingertips. Emerging from the shadows was a towering figure, clad in dark armor and wielding a massive blade. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, a warden of the Veil, a guardian of the Order's secrets. The creature lunged at him, its blade cutting through the air with terrifying speed. Aiden dodged, barely escaping the deadly strike. He countered with a blast of lightning, but the warden deflected it with ease. This was no ordinary dungeon monster, it was a relic of the Order's power, a force that had protected these secrets for centuries. Aiden's mind raced. He couldn't defeat this thing by brute force alone. He needed to outsmart it. Glancing around the chamber, his eyes landed on the symbols etched into the walls. If these symbols had opened the passageway, perhaps they could be used against the warden. Dashing across the room, Aiden placed his hands on the nearest symbol, channeling his lightning through it. The symbols on the wall lit up, pulsing with energy. The warden paused, as if sensing the disturbance in the chamber's magic. Seizing the opportunity, Aiden activated more of the symbols, and the room began to tremble. The warden roared, but it was too late. The energy from the symbols surged through the chamber, and the warden's armor began to crack and crumble. With one final bolt of lightning, Aiden shattered the creature, reducing it to nothing but ash. Breathing heavily, Aiden fell to his knees, his mind reeling from the discovery. The Order of the Veil, his family's connection to it, this was only the beginning. He knew now that his journey would take him far beyond the Ironclaw dungeon. There were more secrets to uncover, and more enemies who would stop at nothing to keep them buried. As he stood and pocketed the ancient tome, Aiden's resolve hardened. His quest for vengeance had turned into something far greater. He wasn't just fighting for his family anymore, he was fighting to unravel the truth behind the fall of the Order of the Veil. And he would stop at nothing to see it through. Aiden emerged from the Ironclaw dungeon, the sun setting on the horizon. His body ached from the battle, but his mind was sharper than ever. He now bore the mark of the Veil, a hidden symbol that had appeared on his arm after touching the ancient tome. It pulsed with a faint energy, a constant reminder of the path he had chosen. As he made his way back to the nearby town of Ashvale, Aiden couldn't help but feel that he was being watched. He had always been cautious, but this time it was different. The shadows seemed to shift unnaturally, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. Entering the town, Aiden kept to the alleyways, avoiding the bustling marketplace. He needed information, anything that could help him understand the Order of the Veil and its connection to his family. But asking questions in a town like Ashvale could draw unwanted attention, and he wasn't ready to reveal his hand just yet. He made his way to an old tavern on the outskirts of town, a place where rumors flowed freely and people kept to themselves. The air inside was thick with the smell of smoke and ale, and the patrons sat in dimly lit corners, whispering among themselves. Aiden took a seat at the bar and ordered a drink, his eyes scanning the room. A man with a hood pulled low over his face approached him. "You've been marked by the veil," the man said quietly, his voice barely audible over the noise of the tavern. "That's dangerous." Aiden tensed but didn't react. "I'm looking for answers. Do you know anything about the order?" The man glanced around nervously before slipping a small piece of paper into Aiden's hand. "Meet me outside the town at midnight. We can talk more then." Without another word, the man disappeared into the crowd, leaving Aiden with more questions than answers. He unfolded the paper and saw a simple drawing of a symbol, one he had seen in the tome. It seemed that his journey was about to take another dangerous turn. The night was eerily quiet as Aiden approached the meeting spot outside of Ashvale. The moon cast long shadows over the landscape, and the air was thick with anticipation. He gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, his senses on high alert. As the minutes ticked by, Aiden began to wonder if he had been led into a trap. But just as doubt started to creep in, the hooded man emerged from the shadows. He moved swiftly, his eyes darting around as if expecting an ambush. "You came," the man said, his voice low and hurried. "We don't have much time. They're watching." "Who's watching?" Aiden demanded, stepping closer. "Who are you?" The man hesitated, then pulled back his hood to reveal a weathered face with a scar running across one eye. "Name's Galen. I used to be part of the Order, before everything went to hell. I've been hiding ever since, waiting for someone like you to come along." Aiden's heart skipped a beat. "Someone like me?" Galen nodded. "The mark of the veil isn't just a curse. It's a key, one that can unlock the secrets of the Order. But it's also a beacon. The moment you were marked, they knew. The remnants of the Order will come for you. Some want to restore the old ways, others want to bury the past for good." Aiden's grip on his sword tightened. "I'm not afraid of them. I need to know what happened to my family and what role the Order played in their deaths." Galen studied Aiden for a moment before speaking again. "There's a place, a hidden temple deep within the shattered peaks. It's where the Order conducted their most powerful rituals, where the truth about your family lies. But it's also heavily guarded by the Veil's warden, a monster unlike any you've faced." "I'll do whatever it takes," Aiden said without hesitation. Galen sighed, as if resigned to the inevitable. "Then you'll need help. There are others who oppose the Order, who've been fighting in the shadows. I can take you to them, but know this, once you enter the Shattered Peaks, there's no turning back. The Veil's secrets are not meant for the faint of heart." Aiden's eyes hardened with resolve. "Lead the way." Reached a secluded cave entrance. Inside, the flickering light of a fire revealed a small group of people, each with a wary, battle-hardened look. They eyed Aiden suspiciously as he entered. "This is him," a tall woman with silver hair asked, her arms crossed. "This is Aiden Storm," Galen confirmed. "He bears the mark of the veil. He's the one we've been waiting for." The woman stepped forward, scrutinizing Aiden. "I'm Seraphine, leader of this little resistance. We've been tracking the Order's movements for years, trying to stop them from regaining their former power. If Galen vouches for you, that's good enough for me. But make no mistake, this mission will be the most dangerous thing you've ever done. I'm ready, Aiden said firmly. What's our plan? Seraphine gestured to a large map spread out on the ground. The shattered peaks are treacherous, and the temple lies at the very heart of them. We've been preparing for an assault, but with your mark, we might just have the key we need to get past the warden and into the inner sanctum. Why are you all risking your lives for this? Aiden asked, curious about their motivations. Each of us has our reasons, Seraphine replied. The Order took something from all of us. Family, friends, our homes. We're here for justice, just like you. Aiden nodded, feeling a sense of kinship with these strangers. They had all been wronged by the same force, and now they were united in their quest to bring the Order down. Together, they made their final preparations, knowing that dawn would bring their most perilous journey yet. The ascent to the shattered peaks was brutal. Jagged rocks and treacherous paths made every step a challenge, and the cold mountain air bit at their exposed skin. Aiden led the way, the mark of the veil pulsing with a faint glow that guided them toward the temple. As they climbed higher, the landscape grew more desolate, the air filled with an unnatural stillness. They were close now. Aiden could feel the power of the veil growing stronger, a palpable energy that sent shivers down his spine. Finally, they reached the entrance to the temple, a massive stone doorway carved into the mountainside. The symbols of the veil were etched into the stone, glowing faintly in the dim light. Aiden placed his hand on the door, and the mark on his arm flared with energy. The door groaned open, revealing the darkness within. This is it, Galen whispered. The heart of the Order's power. They entered the temple cautiously, their footsteps echoing through the ancient halls. The walls were lined with more of the strange symbols, and Aiden could sense the presence of something powerful, something waiting for them. As they ventured deeper, they reached a massive chamber, at the center of which stood a colossal figure clad in dark armor, the veil's warden. Its eyes glowed with the same unnatural light as the warden Aiden had faced before, but this one was far more imposing, its very presence exuding an aura of death. This is where the real battle begins, Seraphine said, drawing her weapon. We take this thing down, or we die trying. Aiden stepped forward, the mark on his arm blazing with power. I'll distract it. You all focus on finding the source of its strength. The warden let out a deafening roar as it charged at Aiden, its massive blade slicing through the air. Aiden narrowly avoided the strike, countering with a blast of lightning that struck the warden's armor, but it barely flinched. This was no ordinary opponent, it was a manifestation of the Order's darkest magic. As the battle raged on, Seraphine and the others searched the chamber for anything that could weaken the warden. Galen spotted a series of symbols on the walls, similar to those in the Iron Claw dungeon. These symbols, they're connected to the warden's power. We need to disrupt them. Aiden continued to engage the warden, dodging its relentless attacks and striking back with everything he had. His energy was waning, but he couldn't afford to falter, not now. Almost there. Seraphine shouted, activating the last of the symbols. As she did, the warden let out a pained roar, its movements slowing as its strength began to drain. Seeing his chance, Aiden summoned all his remaining energy and unleashed a massive bolt of lightning, striking the warden directly in its chest. The creature staggered, its armor cracking under the force of the attack. With one final, desperate strike, Aiden drove his blade into the warden's core, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. The chamber fell silent as the warden's remains disintegrated into dust. The only sound was the heavy breathing of the group as they stood victorious. "We did it," Seraphine said, her voice filled with relief. Aiden nodded, though he knew their journey was far from over. The temple still held many secrets, and the truth about his family's connection to the Order was somewhere within these walls. With the warden defeated, the chamber's center began to shift, revealing a hidden staircase that led further down into the depths of the temple. The group exchanged weary glances but knew they had to press on. Aiden led the way, his resolve stronger than ever. The staircase descended into a vast underground hall, its walls covered in murals depicting the history of the Order. Aiden recognized some of the figures, his ancestor, Aiden Storm, among them. The murals told a story of a once noble order that had fallen into darkness, corrupted by their pursuit of power. At the far end of the hall stood a massive stone door, covered in the same symbols that had marked Aiden. He approached it cautiously, knowing that whatever lay beyond would finally give him the answers he sought. The door opened with a soft creak, revealing a chamber filled with ancient artifacts and a large, ornate chest at its center. The air was thick with the energy of the veil, and Aiden could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. He approached the chest, his heart pounding. As he opened it, he found an old journal, its pages filled with the writings of Aiden Storm. Aiden began to read, his eyes widening with each word. The journal detailed Raylan's descent into madness, his obsession with harnessing the power of the veil to protect his family and the realm. But in his pursuit of power, Raylan had made a pact with a dark force, one that demanded a terrible price. The journal revealed that Raylan's actions had set off a chain of events that led to the Order's corruption and the eventual destruction of Aiden's family. Tears welled up in Aiden's eyes as he realized the truth. His family's death had been the result of Raylan's choices, a consequence of the dark pact he had made. But the journal also contained a warning, a prophecy that spoke of a descendant who would either redeem the Order or destroy it completely. Aiden closed the journal, the weight of his family's legacy pressing down on him. He had come here seeking revenge, but now he understood that his journey was about more than just vengeance. It was about breaking the cycle of darkness that had plagued his family for generations. He turned to Seraphine and the others, who had been watching him in silence. "The Order's power ends here," he said firmly. "We destroy everything, every artifact, every trace of the veil. We end this for good." Seraphine nodded, and together, they began the painstaking process of dismantling the temple. As they worked, Aiden felt a sense of peace settling over him. The weight of his past was still there, but it no longer controlled him. The sun was rising as Aiden and his newfound allies stood at the entrance of the temple, watching as the structure crumbled into ruin. The power of the veil had been sealed away, and the Order's influence had finally been broken. Aiden turned to Seraphine and the others, a sense of gratitude swelling in his chest. "Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you." Seraphine smiled. "We all had our reasons for being here. But now it's time to move forward. The world is still full of dangers, and there's much work to be done." Aiden nodded. He knew that his journey wasn't over. There were still many dungeons to explore, many monsters to defeat. But for the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose that went beyond revenge. As the group prepared to part ways, Galen approached Aiden. "You've done something remarkable today, Aiden. You've broken the cycle. But remember, There will always be those who seek the power of the veil. Stay vigilant. Aiden smiled faintly. I will. With that, Aiden turned and began his journey down the mountain, the dawn of a new day breaking over the horizon. The past was behind him, but the future was wide open, full of possibilities. And as long as he had his strength and his resolve, Aiden knew he could face whatever came next.